My name is Hector. I'm 19 years old and I'm moving out of my parents' house next week. I've saved up money from numerous part-time jobs, so I'm pretty sure I have enough to live off while I find a job in the area which I'm moving. My friends decided to throw a moving out party for me. It's going to be an all-night camping trip in the forest because they know I'm into scary places like an old abandoned houses and forests. Blackrose Forest has been rumored to have a number of strange occurrences, things like disappearances, ghosts, and such. So it was the perfect place for my party. I set up for the party at 8 p.m. By then, it was starting to get dark out, the kind of atmosphere I like. My friends, Kevin, his girlfriend Lacey, Steve and Joe were waiting for me at the entrance of the forest. "You ready to go in?" Kevin asked. "Yep, sure," I replied, and we went into the forest. The woods were so dense because the trees were very tightly packed. This made it difficult to move through the forest with all our camping equipment and food. But we persevered. 30 minutes later, we reached the clearing. We could see the night sky perfectly, so we set up camp here. I had a brilliant time. We had a few drinks, told scary stories around the campfire, and Joe even brought some weed. We basically did all typical things teenagers did. We were acting like idiots, but I didn't care. It was a welcome break from my shitty job at McDonald's. By 10:45, the place was a wreck. There were beer cans and food wrappers everywhere. We had no intentions of cleaning up afterwards because people never come out here anyway, so who's going to give a fuck? Lacey, who was very drunk, went into the woods, possibly for a piss or to puke. I don't know. She didn't tell us, so we didn't ask. At about 11:27, we were starting to get worried about Lacey because she hadn't come back. Kevin, like the lazy bum he is, said, "Hector, you're the most sober out all of us. Could you please go look for Lacey?" I had no idea why someone as hot as Lacey was going out with a lazy fat slob like Kevin anyway. I had to bail him out all the time. He constantly asked me for money so he could impress her, since he was too lazy to go out and get a job. Whenever the lads and I went to a bar, he never brought enough cash for a drink, so I ended up having to pay for his beer. Regardless, I went into the woods to look for Lacey. Maybe she would finally realize what a lazy son of a bitch Kevin was, and dump him and go out with me instead. It was nearly pitch black because the only light source I had was a flashlight. I must have been looking around for a good 26 minutes before I found any sign of Lacey. I found her gold necklace, the one I had to pay for so Kevin could impress her. It had some blood on it, so I knew Lacey was hurt and I had to find her quickly. I was getting increasingly worried and paranoid, not just for her but for myself as well. But there could be some wild animal loose in these woods, or worse, some psychopath. I ran faster than I've ever run before, so I only knew one thing: I had to find Lacey and fast. After a few good minutes of running, I found Lacey, or what was left of her, at least. Her flayed corpse hung from a tree as her blood drenched the tree trunk and the ground below. Her eyes had been gouged out, and her right arm was hanging by a tendon. I only knew it was her because her blood-stained clothes were next to the tree from which she is hung. I threw up and started crying, Someone had done this, I thought to myself. That's when I noticed the sign written in her blood on one of the nearby trees. It read,
Crime, angering us. Sentence, death.
Was this meant for her? No, it couldn't be, as it was written in her blood. Someone knew one of us would find her like this. That message was meant for us. Without thinking, I just ran. I had to tell the others and we had to get out of here as soon as possible. I reached the clearing, and I was going to tell them that Lacey was killed by someone. That's when I noticed it. The clearing was smaller than it was when we first got here. No, this just couldn't be real. It was the trees. The trees are moving. Kevin, Joe, Steve, we have to get out of here. Lacey's dead. The trees are moving, I shouted. Kevin looked at me with confusion. That was until he noticed that one of the trees were right next to extinguish the fire. Like an idiot, he walked up to the tree thinking that it wouldn't move. While he was looking, while this was true, we were about to find out that it was only true for them moving from one location to another, making a sound like wood creaking. The tree's trunk bent down and the branch picked up Kevin. What followed was the most awful sound I have ever heard. Kevin's screams of agony mixed with sound of bones breaking, flesh tearing, and the sound of leaves rustling. We watched in horror as a waterfall of Kevin's blood fell from the tree, covering the trunk. The blood moved and formed an ominous message reading,
You're next.
I was so horrified, both by the message and the fact that Kevin was dead. So much so that I didn't notice that the trees closing in behind. Steve, Joe, and me. I didn't understand how it was possible for the trees to move, because there were roots still lodged in the ground, and there was no sign of the ground being disturbed in any way. Didn't have time to ponder though. My remaining friends and I just run. Running through the woods was the worst thing ever, especially knowing any of the trees could pick us up and kill us. Branches keep grabbing at us and I received numerous cuts from the branches. It felt like we were running for days and the exit was nowhere in sight. Then we found a dirt track. This had to lead to a way out. It just must. Finally, in a stroke of luck, we found a way out. We didn't know what to think. The pain from the cuts we received from the trees reminded us that we were alive. We agreed to never speak of this night ever again, and we would have to tell Lacey and Kevin's parents that they went missing in the woods. We couldn't tell them it was the trees. They would never believe us. I went to bed without saying anything to my parents. I'm moving out next week, and I'm going to an urban area. I just hope I make it. There's a tree in my front garden.